People mostly stayed in the ballroom because they didn't know where to go. Hopefully, they figure out where we are if they're interested in the IT solutions. Welcome, everyone. My name is Marta Bogdanic, and I work for IFC in the Agri Advisory Services, and I'm based in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And I've been tasked to moderate this panel to discuss how IT solutions can help private sector manage risk in the food safety area. In today's session, we will discuss IT solutions, their development, implementation, challenges, and I'm happy to see that we have more people joining us. So before we begin, I would also like to thank our panelists for being available to join us on stage today and discuss the topic from the various angles, their participation in it. So I'd like to say, you've heard over and over today that food safety is everybody's business, and that efforts to ensure that food reaching consumers is of good quality and safe for consumption, that they starts at the primary production in agriculture and spans all stages of food cycle, for processing, warehousing, transport, retail, and consumption. Food safety considerations are important for individual consumers, for businesses involved in the food supply chain, as well as for the governments that are tackled with ensuring public health. With climate change very prominent on the agenda of all of us today, the food safety part that kind of starts with the ensuring that food in post-harvest segment remains treated appropriately, is warehoused well, until it reaches us as consumers. And then there is a part that we all play as consumers to lower the food waste. This is where food safety has a big impact on climate as well, and provides an opportunity to lower that impact by addressing the food safety challenges appropriately. So in this panel, we will discuss the level of digitalization of the food safety management systems in various stages of the supply chain, the obstacles in implementing digital solutions, and the support that the government of Bangladesh is providing to support the digitization of the food systems. So today with me, I have here 5 distinguished gentlemen, a lot less gender balanced panel than the previous one, I must say, because I'm the token female here. So let me just say very briefly that we'll have here Alan Johnson from IFC on the far left from me. He's our smallholder supply chain platform global lead. Alan is also based in Vietnam, but his role is global. So we have Raman Ahuja, co-founder of the Think Ag in India. Mr. Mridul Chaudhuri from Empower here in Bangladesh. Mr. Arfan Ali, co-founder on the financial services side of the ShopUp. And Dr. Devan Mohammed Hamojun Kabir. Yeah, did I do it well? The project director and additional secretary in Aspire to Innovate program in the ICT division. So without much further delay, I would like to ask Alan to tell us a little bit about why IFC is supporting clients to use the technology in the food safety related risk management, as well as what our experience is to date. Because in support of our clients, we've been discussing or looking at various solutions that can help manage that risk that is very real and has real impact on how successful food-related businesses are. So Alan, over to you.
Great, thank you, Marta. And before I jump in, I just want to say thanks to the organizers for the wonderful event and also for the invitation. I think I last was in Bangladesh maybe 17 years ago, and I can say there's obviously been tremendous change, and from what I understand, Bangladesh is on a very positive trajectory, which also may mean that it's a place that's very amenable to the adoption of technology, the substance of our discussion. So, Marta, to answer your question, I think from the IFC point of view, we have to see this in the broader picture of digital transformation and how we have recognized that the digital economy has become front and center for development more generally. So it's something that really cuts across every sector, not just food safety, but we can talk about that specifically. And then the reasons are, just the massive potential productivity and efficiency gains that technology can bring. And I think, the COVID pandemic, whilst that was terrible, one of the sort of side effects was it revealed how important digital technology can be, in the sense that it allowed many things to happen that couldn't have otherwise happened. But anyway, to zero in then on the topic of this discussion, I think the main sort of focus areas, it's kind of come up already a couple of times, but to do with looking at the food system as a whole, and then specifically about sustainable production, traceability, the reduction of food loss and waste. And I think I have been at you notice this is the 10th food safety conference. I've been at a previous one, and there's always this issue, oh, I went to this great conference, but did you actually remember anything? Well, the thing I did remember from the previous food safety conference I went to was that food safety begins at the farm. So I think really this emphasizes this issue of it's not just about what happens in your processing factory. You've really got to look at the whole system. And I think technology really can play a role in that, sort of looking at the supply chain in its entirety. Now, some of you may be familiar with a McKinsey study on digitization. And from that, they discovered, it's not really a great mind-blowing conclusion, but agriculture is the least digitized productive sector. And I think construction is the one just above agriculture. So one way we could look at it is that actually the potential gains from digitization and technology are the largest, compared to other sectors that already have embraced digital technologies. So I think the other way of looking at it is that because of the momentum and the pressure to digitize, if you kind of don't digitize, you're actually going to fall behind relatively. So I think there is also some imperative to actually embrace the digital transformation. Then just very briefly in terms of what we do, having said, we take the digital economy very seriously, we have started investing actually directly in some ag tech companies, although that's a difficult space to be in. But in this region, there's DeHat, Big Basket, AgroStar, Waycool, and a number of others, which are in the kind of agri space, looking at digital platforms and improving the kind of supply chain. But let's say that I'm on the advisory side, and we also are looking at ways in which our own clients can make better use of the opportunities of digital technology. And we have specific dedicated projects, both in Vietnam, which Marta runs, and I've been running one in Africa as well. So we're looking at it in both ways. We're investing in technology providers, but we're also trying to help our clients embrace digital technologies in their supply chains. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, I would just like to add one thing. When we're working with our clients in assisting them to select appropriate digital solutions to implement in their supply chains, we kind of started looking at what the problem is, because many times clients would come and say, oh, we went out, we bought this off-the-shelf product, it didn't work. Nobody wanted to use it, or they found it really interesting in the beginning, but then later on the usage rates dropped dramatically. So when we were faced with this challenge, we were like, okay, what should we do? Is there something that we as IFC can support our clients in the space of the advisory services? And it was precisely to look at what the real issue is, what kind of solution would the end users like to get from the tool. So it's not just for the companies to implement something and say, oh, you know, we have this great tool, we deployed it, our farmers don't want to use it. You know, if we are talking about the start of the supply chain and the issues there. So we began by trying to provide more customized solutions that actually respond to the real problem of that supply chain. Mixed experiences. I mean, not with the design, but with the implementation, but we'll talk about this later. So I'd like to move on to Raman now. So Raman is an independent advisor in food and agriculture sectors, who's been working at the intersection of technology, supply chains, and agro-logistics. I mean, I understand you've worked with a lot of multilateral development organizations and technology startups and SMEs in agri and food sectors. And I believe that your experience with Hindustan Unilever and Field Fresh Foods at Del Monte really sensitized you to the needs of the sector and the role that technology can play in managing risk in agri-food sector. In addition to all these various roles, Raman today is one of the co-founders of ThinkAg. So ThinkAg is a platform that works to create innovation and adoption of agri-technology. So when we talked in preparation for this panel, it was clear that this experience working with large companies gave you the opportunity to have the complete view of the food supply chain, agri-food supply chain, and the challenges in food security and safety management at various stages. So can you please tell us a little bit about these different tech solutions that you were able to use or work with that that were focusing on food safety management?
Thanks, Marta, and thanks to IFC for inviting me here to be part of this very interesting dialogue, led by the private sector arm of World Bank. I think that really demonstrates that there is an interest to integrate many of the private sector tools into a very sensitive area of food and nutrition security and food safety. So, and thanks for the kind introduction. I think, going back to my experience in Hindustan Unilever, where we were building supply chains, agri-based supply chains for packaged products, both for local market within India and exports to other Unilever countries in Europe, North America, and Australia. The challenge, and I'm now going back 20 plus years, the challenge that was put to us was, how do we know that what you commit to deliver is going to be reliably delivered, and B, more importantly, in the quality that has been agreed to, right? And those days there was no tech. We were just coming out of Y2K, so really the belief in technology was what it was. So what we did was we said we will hire third party. So we went to one of the big four consulting firms and did actually a chain of custody audit, which nowadays is called traceability. Yeah. So we documented the entire, as Alan said, farm to fork. So we started from the seed or pre-seed and moved right up to the finished product, and we did that entire audit. Now, fast forward 6 years, when I was building a horticulture export business to Europe and UK, it became that much more difficult. In the earlier experience, it was about long shelf life products. Here it was horticulture fresh produce that needed to go directly from the pack house into, let's say, the warehouse of a vendor to Tesco or a Safeway or one of those chains. So it became very difficult to do this paper documentation, yeah, and then to be able to convince the customer that what you've written on that piece of paper is actually genuine. So we started to look at technologies, and those days the feature phones were not really there. We were looking at, we were looking at feature phones. There were hardly any smartphones. So we started documenting some of these things, at least communication to the farmers and the recording of the farmer information on these phones, and started to showcase some of those things to our customers, saying that we're bringing in digital tools. It has been a very difficult journey, and I would just go now to very recent times, where there are a lot of supply chain tools out there that are allowing you to capture the traceability element. And from what I heard in the earlier session, that Bangladesh is focusing on some commodities for export, things like mango and fishery and so on and so forth, where you need very high order of food safety standards, which is, you know, your pesticide residues and so on and so forth. So building that digital traceability capability is very, very helpful. It's not easy to do. Technology comes very easy to all of us because most of us have smartphones, but we start to go down to the smallholder farmers, it is not easily accessible. And whenever it becomes accessible, they are not able to deploy it because of awareness or education or so on and so forth. So I think, in summary, Martha, the two things: one is technology being there, however, making it adapted to the smallholders' need, and second is the hand-holding support that is needed when we are working with smallholder farmers to be able to deploy the technology and actually get benefit of a better price to say that, hey, my product is MRL safe, you know.
Thank you for this. I think we will reserve this challenge question for one more round after everyone has a chance to tell us about their experience in this space. But before we move to Mridul, I would just like to ask you, what are you and your colleagues in ThinkAg doing to achieve this accelerated adoption of innovation in the agtech world?
Sure. So we recognize that the technologies, while being developed, have a challenge of being adapted to the user, and also there is a cost element of deploying the technology. And clearly, smallholder farmers, whether it's India or Bangladesh, will not be able to afford it. So we started to bring in corporates, large companies like Bayer, like Unilever, and others, and Indian companies like Godrej and so on and so forth, to actually pull them into this ecosystem to say, hey, listen, can we run pilots? Can you deploy these technologies via a pilot, which you finance? We will mentor the startups for you. And when I say we, this entity is called ThinkAg, and it's a not-for-profit entity. So we said, we will design the pilots. You own the pilot, we will mentor the startup. You have enough resources to do it, but we will do the hand-holding, so that there is a increased understanding of this technology within the corporate as well. It's easier said than done, but that's what we've been aiming to do.
Thank you very much. So we'll now move to Mridul Chaudhuri, the CEO and founder of Empower Social Enterprises, which has developed multiple award-winning solutions, primarily in health and agriculture sector, and deployed them in over a dozen countries in Asia and Africa. So we are mostly interested in the field of e-agriculture, and Empower's digital services allow farmers to get predictive recommendations on potential for disease developments and advice on best practices, and also empowers agriculture and livestock extension workers with customer management and e-learning solution. So Mridul, I mean, I understand that we have a longer lasting relationship as IFC with you. Our colleagues, that we've met during the day today have worked with you on a variety of projects implementation before. So if you don't mind, in the Bangladeshi agri landscape, you stepped up to provide these digital solutions for livestock and poultry sector farmers, as well as for the crop sector. So tell us about the experience in implementing these Shudoku and Shufola applications. Shudoku being for livestock and parabets, and Shufola for the crop products.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Martha, and thank you, IFC, for the opportunity to speak here today. So I'll get straight to the question. So essentially, the two kinds of solutions that Martha was talking about. One is Shufola, which is essentially a crop advisory, service for smallholder farmers. And we are covering about 17, 18 crops right now. So essentially, what it does is it takes inputs from different sources. It takes input from farmers, the kind of cultivation stage, the crop cycle that they're in. It takes inputs from satellite images, it takes inputs from automated weather stations, it takes inputs from weather station services that are available out there. So essentially a variety of services and the purpose is to give very specific recommendations to farmers, very actionable recommendation to farmers. So if a farmer is cultivating potatoes, for instance, I mean, if they get an advisory, a generic advisory about, there may be too much rain in the next 72 hours, it's not very actionable for that potato farmer. So what we're essentially trying to do is make it extremely actionable, what they need to do, how much pesticide or preventive measures they need to take over the next 72 hours, and that's where the food security issues come in, because we focus a lot on integrated pest management, natural processes as much as possible. So those are the kinds of things we do through Shufola. And one particular instance of Shufola is what we call GeoPotato, and that is what we've been working with Bayer for a couple of years on, is where we essentially try to predict the possibility of a late blight disease attack. So whenever we essentially track certain microclimatic conditions, and as soon as those thresholds come true, we essentially send out an alert to the farmers for preventive measures, thereby again reducing the amount of pesticides that they end up using. Because if they use pesticides as a reactive measure, then they end up using much more pesticides than they actually have to. So the idea is to prevent rather than being reactionary. So that's what Shufola and GeoPotato is all about. As far as Shudokho is concerned, in the context of Bangladesh, we don't really have a lot of veterinarians. What we have are paravets, livestock service providers who essentially generate about 95% of the animal-related prescriptions. So we essentially work with that group because it's an extremely important opinion influencer, and they're the ones who are prescribing medicine. So those are the ones that is the group we're trying to influence in terms of use of antibiotics, essentially trying to make them aware about antimicrobial resistance and so on, because a lot of them didn't have any clue about any of these. So whenever they try to prescribe an antibiotic, essentially, the app that we have created is a kind of a micro ERP solution and an e-learning solution combined together, where essentially they keep track of their customers. So they know that, suppose they have given a vaccine. So the app would essentially tell them after 3 months, it would give an automated alert that something else is due, so essentially it's a kind of a customer relationship management. It's a financial tracking management, and also e-learning solution, so that whenever they come across different symptoms, it tells them what they need to be doing, what kind of medicines are possible for these kinds of symptoms, and so on. So those are the kinds of things that we work on. Yeah.
We have this one mic, it seems. I'd like to just ask a follow-up question. It seems to me that for Shudok, it's an almost guaranteed use, because you are providing a service to Paravet who is in the field, needs this support. If they are collecting information on what the situation that they've encountered at a particular farm is, they can get this technical advice immediately. How about the use of Shufola among the crops farmers? Because this, I imagine, is something that everybody's struggling with. Like, is it easy? Do you see that more male farmers are using it? Have you tracked even the gender balance between the users of or the gender rates between the users of the app? Can you tell us something about that?
Yes. That is Shufola is definitely more difficult because it's more targeted towards farmers. So what we generally have adopted a strategy is to essentially work more in the area of B2B2C. So we essentially work with organizations that in turn work with farmers, because what we have seen is that if we directly try to work with farmers or try to get them to subscribe to our apps, it's a tall order. So what we do is we work with NGOs which are working with farmers, microfinance organizations which are working with farmers. So they have an interface with the farmers on a regular basis.
Direct contact and can support them in this, yes.
Right. So that's what we do, and then we work with organizations like Bayer, who are essentially selling to farmers, or organizations like Kellogg's, who are buying from farmers. So essentially we go through organizations that are working with farmers. So that has been our strategy so far.
Thank you for that, Mridul. We'll now move to ShopUp. We have Mr. Arfan Ali with us. But listen to this. we are in the food safety space, but we have somebody who is the father of ancient banking in Bangladesh. ShopUp, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, is an organization that has created 3 different apps. One is connecting suppliers with small-scale retailers and enabling small-scale retailers to buy goods from these suppliers. It's called Mocam. Then we have the Red X, the last mile distribution app that also enables the delivery of all items to end users within Bangladesh. And then finally, there is Onkur, Financial Services Division. So, Mr. Ali, I would like you to tell us a little bit about how your financial services division is supporting investments that are vital for ensuring food safety. I mean, I know that there is a lot more, but bring us to the food safety element. Thank you.
Thank you. There are 4 fundamentals in food safety. 2 we can directly address. One is availability and second is access to it. So in terms of availability, you see ShopUp is doing a very good job by connecting these micro merchants with the source of its production. Either it is from the village, or it is from the market, or it is from the processing plant, etc. So this is eliminating the middleman in between and keeping the food in quality and price stable. So price, you see, when the price moves, this is also creates some degree of insecurity because people cannot buy that, and it becomes unavailable for some of the section of the society. So this is a great job ShopUp is doing. Second, the access to food. Getting this supply from the origin and giving it to the people around consumer level. At this moment, around 20 million consumers are directly or indirectly using ShopUp supply food. This is a very big one. So these 2 factors are truly to the very heart of the people working at ShopUp. And second one, as you said, the financial service that I started when I joined ShopUp as a co-founder for this. And this is very primary stage, but still I believe that I'm better known to the people, to Bangladeshi, as a banker. For 31 years, I was with Commercial Bank. I promoted agent banking in this country. And now 31 banks are now doing that. And around 20 million people are using agent banking. And it has got a good traction. So with the same experience, we are driving Onkur Digital that will cater the need of the grassroots people and the micro merchants, especially you see sometimes we call the missing middle or the link we cannot establish, that is the micro merchants. So we are now reaching those micro merchants with embedded financing, and that will take a good shape when the more regulatory regime will be there for this type of financial services, and more environment in terms of players, in terms of understanding of the people will be created. So I believe that food security, safety, one of the major challenge is the production and transportation and making it available for the people. So these all are related to finance in appropriate terms. So Onkur Digital will become that organ that will give the power to these people who needs it most. And in Bangladesh especially, you will see the use of technology for these micro merchants are very not very much. As a banker, we have also observed, so very low level of degree of use of this one. But in ShopUp, we have created one good platform that is accessible by the supplier as well as by the merchants. So this will help to expand it more rapidly, and other players can also participate in this game. Thank you.
Sounds like a really innovative approach to providing finance as well. Look, we all know that here in the region, agri sector is dominated by a very large number of very small producers, and it's always a challenge to integrate their supply, to provide any kind of capacity building to them, any type of training, any type of tools to be implemented. So it's very difficult and very challenging to work with this type of agriculture, let's say agriculture producers. And then when you also think about these small producers, actually the major providers of the food, not only for the region but globally. So all of these challenges need to be addressed. You're using a variety of tools. One of the segments, or one of the stakeholders in this is the government, obviously. And I understand, that Bangladesh as a country had a very early adoption of mobile phones, mobile technology, very early on. So feature phones that are still in use today were actually the result of this very early adoption of the mobile technologies. Right now, we have the issue of how do we go to the use of more sophisticated tools that require smartphones, right? And here with us we have Dr. Devan Muhammad Humayun Kabir, who is the project director of this Aspire to Innovate program. And Aspire to Innovate, the way that I understand it, is part of the effort of the government of Bangladesh to digitize the government, work. So, Dr. Devan is a career civil servant who has worked on policy formulation and execution, has been managing different crises and implementing mega projects, where I think, this digital, the attempt of digitizing the government is really a very mega project, if I may label it so. So I would like to ask you a specific question. What is the role played by this A2I program, or the role that it can play to support the agri-sector in Bangladesh to achieve that food safety risks are managed and food products are safe? Because obviously, for the government, public health aspect is also very important.
Thank you, Martha, and IFC for connecting here with me. Thank you so much. From very beginning, we were speaking that the gender balance. So now it is 1:5. One is controlling remaining 5 in the states. So you are so powerful. Thank you. In our Bangla language, there is a saying like "Pet thanda to jagat thanda." In English, it's called if stomach is cool, then world is cool. Cool. If stomach is cool, then world is cool. Yeah, that's the saying. So in earlier ancient times, the 3 basic needs were food, shelter, and clothes. Then 2 more added in the basic needs, that's the education and medical care. And now another more added, that's called the peace of mind, and how it has been related with the food safety. So basically food have to be safe. There is no other alternative. Second, clothing. Clothing also using the agricultural products. If you are wearing the contaminated clothes, that it will be not safe for you. Then coming to the shelter, it's also same propositions. In education, we are improving our content of the students regarding the food safety, food security, and other issues. And peace of mind, if you are taking the bad foods or contaminated foods, it will not be keeping you in peace of mind. So we are moving forward that way. As per the WHO statement, almost 600 million people are getting sick from contaminated food. And out of them, 500,000 are dying every year. And 43% of children under the year of 5 years are getting sick by taking the contaminated food. And out of them, almost 125,000 children are dying in every year. So that's the scenario and how we are moving forward from the Bangladesh perspective. So what is the role playing the AIDWAI? There are 4 stages the contribution takes place. In primary productions, that is how we are producing our agricultural produce. So what are the amount of pesticides we are using? What is the synthetic fertilizer we are using? How much water resource we are getting lifted from the underground water? So that's also contributed to the whole system also. The second tier is the processed food. Then third tier is the domestic marketing and distribution channel or chain supply chain that has been mentioned by. And the final and fourth is the import and export chain. So if we go through what is the role of the AIDWAI, for primary level, we are using the 4th industrial revolution technology, precision agriculture. So we are moving forward how we can quantify the amount of fertilizer, amount of pesticides, and what is the requirement of the soil conditions. That's we are currently working with the Bangladesh Agriculture Research Council, Bangladesh Agriculture Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, and other Department of Agriculture Extension, how we can minimize the use of the fertilizer and the other pesticides. This is the first one.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you actually trying to implement some kind of a tech tool or to measure the use of agro inputs?
We have developed a that is we call the Khamari app, farmer app. So if you farmer can download a app in his smartphone, Khamari, he will find what amount of pesticides and what amount of other requirement is required for this cultivation of his farmland. So that's the first one. For second one, at the secondary level, that is called the processed food. In that case, we are also using forces like data sharing, data standardization, and and regulation, especially the creating the dashboard for the regulations. And we are currently working with the BSTI, responsible for the safety of the food, and Food Safety Authority. And for domestic marketing, there's the compliance ensuring. There's many times we are using our mobile courts. We have developed the online mobile platform for the executive magistrate who are doing the mobile courts, and other applications we are using to ensure the food safety. And finally, import and export, there's a compliance ensuring for a technology like this. The second our speaker was telling about the traceability capability. That's very important. And another thing is I should add, that's the certifications, because traceability as well as certification is mandatory to export and import. So actually ensure the food safety as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, absolutely, for everyone aspiring to export, you know that you have to meet the requirements of export markets, and the certifications and implementation of standards that are then confirmed by certification is something that importers are requiring, right, to assure a reasonable level of security in what they are buying. So before I ask my next question to the panelists, I'd also like to let you know that you from the audience can ask questions. I assume you are here, and you know, because you have a particular interest in this, probably also some experience. So I will ask my second question, give them the opportunity to respond, and then pass the mic on to you. One question for you all, and I would I encourage you to answer in a short way so that we can give the opportunity to the audience, is what challenges have you encountered? And I mean, what do you really see as the greatest obstacle in implementing digital technologies along all steps of the agri-food supply chain? I mean, we touched on smallholders, that can be obviously elaborated on further. And then specifically for you, also a question, what can be practically done in Bangladesh to encourage private sector leadership, to confidently use these digital technologies for food safety risk management?
Thank you. It's a chain answer.
So, sorry. So two very quick short responses to your question, Marta. One is, and I mentioned earlier, technology needs to be developed and adapted for the use in the field, which has not happened, at least what I've seen in most parts of South Asia and Southeast Asia. I think that's one fundamental issue. And the reasons could be many. The second is the cost of technology development and technology deployment, right? All these companies are private sector companies, and they need to make profit. I don't think there is a viable business model out there as yet which demonstrates that these technologies, for the technology providers, can make money and can make profit. So investors like IFC can actually see returns on their investment. So I think those are fundamental things. The reasons are many, but those need to be addressed in order for the adoption, and as Dr. Diwan also mentioned, for that to take place. It's absolutely necessary, but we need to find solutions.
Can I ask Alan to follow up on this, because I think you will have something to say immediately.
Yeah, I was struggling with when you said a short response. I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. So to me, fundamentally, I think there's an issue of the hype cycle, in the sense that technology sometimes falls into the trap where it's seen as the solution. And I actually don't feel that the fit between the problem to be solved and then the technology that gets deployed is actually a very good fit, and then that leads to problems later. So that's kind of one level of problems. The other one, I totally agree. The business model side is still very much up in the air, and so a lot of stuff is being supported, and then, I hate to say it, some of the well-meaning donor projects also cause certain non-viable technologies to survive for much longer than they should. But I think in our own experience with, say, e-learning and apps and this kind of thing, the problem is exactly this adoption and affordability issues. So again, it relates back to the hype cycle and the fact that the promise is greater than the delivery. So the promise is this amazing, liberation where the small producer can get access to all sorts of information, transactions. In reality, they struggle to adopt these things and use the apps. The impact is unproven. And then the previous panel was on gender. There's an enormous, when I say enormous, I mean ridiculously big gender gap between men and women using the technologies. So, overall, I'm very optimistic about technology, and that's what I work on. But I think my main message is we have to be realistic and avoid this hype cycle problem. And if we can root it more in the reality of adoption and affordability and real impacts that we can measure and demonstrate, then I think we're going to be on the right track.
Okay. Pass it on to Mridu.
Just one quick comment, and this is a question that I've been asked several times in the last many years, including when I was doing businesses. You deploy technology, so the question that comes is, how many deaths can you prevent? And there is no data on impact, right? We've all talked about food safety and those kind of issues. Clearly, there is food that needs to be preserved and can feed more people, but there is no data on impact of technology, and I think that's an ask for IFC to actually look at much deeper and to see how that happens, because the government is putting a lot of money. So is the case in India. But we need to demonstrate the data to build the data to demonstrate the impact.
Thank you. Mridu?
Yes. Yeah, just to build on that point about impact, I completely agree. And I think I also completely agree with the hype cycle that, there are lots of investments that go into technologies that are not creating enough of an impact. But I would also caution on one thing, that is that when we are actually doing the impact study, because agri-tech is somewhat different from a lot of other areas, because as we were also talking about a little earlier, in agriculture, because as a company, Empower actually works both in health tech and agri-tech, and our health tech has been booming, The reason that public health is, people know that it's a responsibility of the government. So you have one decision maker who is willing to adopt, things move. In agriculture, that's not the case. Agriculture is not necessarily just a public good. I mean, agriculture is very much an ecosystem play. I mean, where you have a lot of ecosystem players will have to come together. And you essentially, for agri-tech to be successful, we necessarily need a very much of an ecosystem approach, which means that the farmers need to, be given the time to adopt, the environment that they're operating in.
As well.
They need to change. There's a lot of behavior change that needs to go in. So the impact, while I completely agree on the impact analysis, I also would like to caution that, if we do the impact analysis before these technologies have the time to mature up, then we can come
and before the users can actually prove that they are using, right, the solutions.
Exactly. And then one other point that I also say is that on the issue of gender, from one example from our own experience is that, like for instance, in livestock, what we see is that a lot of the smallholder farmers, it's generally the women who are taking care of the cattle, because the males are often out in the fields. So for these women farmers to call, because most of these livestock service providers are generally male. So for a woman farmer to call on a male livestock service provider during the day when the male in the household are not present, it's not really socially acceptable. And that is where these technologies come in. So it's a huge, while on the one hand it can broaden gender divide, on the other hand, it can give access to female stakeholders.
This is actually ensuring female use, technology. So this is a good one. I will stop you here in middle. I would like Mr. Ali to give us his comment on the challenges.
Thank you. The main challenge is adoption and literacy. Basically, we work with the grassroots people. We know how difficult it is to make them understand the benefit of something new, especially the rural people, the people who in our country, the farmers are mostly smallholder farmers. So the level of understanding they do have, and we have to take them on board to the certain level to use this technology or something like that. But changes are coming. I have seen one television report that some farmers telling this crop will mature in 91 days. You see, this is a very big knowledge, because we never counted things like days. We counted in months. But now we have come to days. So it tells that that level of knowledge they have achieved, that this crop will take this much time. And he was talking about saving 15 days time. Super. So that is important.
That is an indicator of the change. Yes. Can you please pass the mic on to Dr. Devan?
Thank you for challenge. Especially still in our country is a huge population, but land is very limited. So this is subsistence agriculture mostly. So they want to produce more foods from a very small amount of land. They want to apply much fertilizer, pesticides, so and so. That first one, this. Second one, awareness building and the ICT literacy and the food safety literacy. And third one is the infrastructure we are developing from the government or the private sector. It's almost still silo. No data sharing, no standardization of data and infrastructure and ecosystem. This
is an excellent point, because this is not the problem only here, in various countries. Yes.
Yeah. Then second is the online monitoring system. This is completely absent. No regulatory body is there. Then finally, health and other issues are not connected with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we did not forget about the questions from the audience.
So thank you. I am Ishfaq Wahed bin Rahim. I am monitoring officer of Bangladesh Food Safety Authority. So on my job perspective, we are working on food safety, ensuring food safety in Bangladesh. So when we are talking about technology used in perspectives of food safety, we often come to our mind some question about fourth industrial revolution and artificial intelligence and others. The answer already mentioned that ATY is working on some technologies. My question is, what are international financing organizations like World Bank, IFC are now working on this perspective of fourth industrial technology in the sector of food safety? Are there any investment currently working on developing technologies, artificial intelligence technologies? That's all my question.
Okay, so I guess your question is directed either to me or to Alan. So I'll give Alan a chance to start responding. But I will tell you something as a joke. I have just recently read a comment. You know, somebody said, AI, artificial intelligence, are you scared? Have you seen any natural intelligence recently? So it was, you know, the comment of how much of the insane stuff we all come up against. Alan, over to you.
Yeah, so I think this is a great example of what might fall into that hype cycle category. So I think definitely it is going to be fundamental and will really disrupt not just food safety, but entire sectors of the economy. But I do feel we're still at quite a nascent sort of stage of that. And I think in the kind of markets that we're talking about and the issue that we're trying to engage small-scale producers who are very fragmented. And if you just take Bangladesh, like they were an early adopter of feature phones, but on the smartphone, I think they're lagging, but I think it's 40% or something is the figure that I saw, which is well below, say, you know, Vietnam or somewhere like that. So I think, you know, the fourth industrial revolution, AI will come in, but we have to fit it into the context of the problem. It goes back to literally that what's the problem we're trying to solve. So I think institutionally, we're definitely grappling with it. But what I would say is if we are looking at holistically the food system as a whole, then we have to match the problems that we're trying to fix and the realities of gender differences, smallholders, fragmentation, majority of people not having smartphones. We need a dose, some sprinkling of realism. I'm sitting in the place where the celebrity chef was sitting. So, you know, we need, in the ingredients, we have to have some realism in there. So it is important, but I'd say there's other things that we need to grapple with first, I think, especially in this context.
And then maybe more directly to your question on, you know, whether we are investing in the development of these. We usually invest in companies that are dealing with this type of problem. So when we see that they are developing a solution that in our assessment has the potential to be successful, then we would provide investment. And, you know, we do VC, like venture capital investing as well, not only loans and equity investments to companies. So there are various ways of supporting this type of new product development. I've seen some hands. We are at 45 minutes. We have 15 minutes, so I suggest that we do allow 1 or 2 more questions, and then we will wrap up, and we will still be on time for the celebrity chef. No, front row, yeah.
Thank you, Martha, and the honorable panel speakers. It is a very nice topic. It means how IT solutions can help the private sector manage risk. Me, Mohammad Abul Kalam Amjad, servicing in LDDP project as a national agribusiness expert in dairy. Especially my question or suggestion belongs to milk pricing system. In our context, I mean in Bangladesh context, if I say my long experience in Milvita, people were getting their prices about 12 days after. But nowadays, milk analyzer, in a fraction of minute, we may assess what is the qualitative measures of milk and how much price they deserve. And if we adopt some technology, some apps, the farmers will be benefited. Just simply, if you use the app, the quality of milk, pricing of milk may be sent to their a message in mobile phone. Because in Bangladesh, I think most of the people are using, even the rural farmer are using a smartphone. So, if IFC can adapt a next event to adapt such type of technology in the grassroots level, there may be a huge opportunity.
Thank you very much. We will pass this on to our colleagues in the food safety group. Next question. I've seen some, hands over there.
Okay, thank you very much for giving the floor. A very interesting discussion is going on. I have some very small question regarding blockchain technology in Bangladesh. Is there any scope for investment from IFC, particularly for application of blockchain technology, starting from farmers, even starting from input supplier, farmers, then local traders, wholesalers and processors and distributor or consumers level. So particularly for traceability issue, we have to control this one. So if we can make applicable for this technology in our country, I think the value chain aspect or supply chain aspect may be more profitable, and it will be more equitable way for maintaining food safety. Question is that, is there any possibilities for a big investment or any project from IFC in this regard? Thank you.
Alan, you can take the mic.
Thank you very much, sir, for your question. I think to me this is a very good illustration of the point I was trying to make about the problem and then the solution. So in a way, blockchain is a solution, but we need to know what the problem is. The problem actually is what you're talking about is traceability. So what I would say is we need to then look at the spectrum of technological offerings that deal with traceability. We've struggled with blockchain because I think that it is a classic case of where the hype has exceeded the reality. Someone explained to me that a metaphor for the use of blockchain is if you've gone shopping to the supermarket and you have a small bag of food, blockchain is like using a forklift truck to lift the bag of shopping up onto your kitchen counter. So in other words, it does the job, but is it the most suitable technology for that job in question? So what I would say there is that we should look more fundamentally at the underlying problem or issue, which is, I think, about the integrity of the supply chain and making sure that it works properly, and then what is the correct tool to achieve that aim. And it may or may not be blockchain, but just from our own experience, we've suffered we've struggled to find, despite all that hype, struggled to find investable opportunities in that area.
Blockchain is just one of the technologies, yes, as rightly said. So if you can ask your question in 1 minute, in less than 1 minute, and if you can answer in less than 1 minute, then we have to take a final photo and go, because our celebrity chef is waiting for us. At 5. She's starting at 5. We have to go. I mean, in 8 minutes, we have to be downstairs.
Oh. Hello. May I ask a question or my comments?
Okay, no, I'm sorry. No, I was wrong. We are 2 minutes past the time. Let's reserve the question for afterwards.
Just 30-second one comments. No question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Shafir Rahman, Head of the Department, Food Engineering and Technology, State University of Bangladesh. My comments is, first, we must ensure the traceability. And second one is, we must develop the technology by EG scanning for determination of microbial contamination, determination of chemical toxin like this. We must develop the apps. So I would like to request IFC to develop the apps in mobile phone for scanning or determining the, suppose some days ago I received one paper from China. They developed one apps to determine aflatoxin. Aspergillus flavus, just one scanning in mobile phone, determining the.
I suggest we talk about this on downstairs. I will accompany you with
we need
with
to
the
develop some
explanation
slides
on
of
this.
apps
Yes.
By IFC and funding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm just asking my panelists to get up for a group photo. I would like to thank you all for your contribution. It was a very interesting panel. I would also like to thank our audience for being here with us now. It was really interesting to have your participation as well. Thank you for that.